ABS Evening News. Major advance in justice reform. Sexual offences model court becomes operational in Antigua and Barbuda.
The Attorney General outlines additional measures to improve the administration of justice.
A family's double anguish. They are jolted by a motor vehicle crash as the search for a missing relative continues.
And just over 400 miles separate them from home. Team Antigua Island girls continue their amazing odyssey. The ABS Evening News begins now.
The local evening news is brought to you by Nagico, local agents Bryson's Insurance.
You can join us here for the evening news. Here on ABS, Antigua's News Authority. I am Terry Andrew.
And I'm Alejandra Robinson. Thank you so much for joining us. We begin with news of a major development in the justice system in this country and across the sub-region. A sexual offences model court is now operational in Antigua, greatly enhancing the way such cases are handled in the High Court.
Well, the Caribbean Court of Justice executed the initiative, which was spearheaded by the Judicial Reform and Institutional Strengthening, or JURIS project. Amar Sayers was at the High Court this morning, where legal luminaries from around the region converged for the launch.
The days when the wheels of justice turn for years before sexual offences cases are completed in the courts will be no more. This declaration comes from the High Court Judge of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, Justice Ian Morley.
Cases will be finished ideally within 18 months of charging a defendant. Gone will be the days of cases often taking 4 years or more.
The Sexual Offences Model Court is not only aimed at increasing efficiency, it's also intended to better handle the sensitive nature of sexual offences cases. Justice Morley added that there will be greater support for complainants, better communication with them, and more efficient processing of paperwork by the police. Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, Dame Janice Pereira, said the specialization of the court will help to improve overall efficiency.
There can be no doubt, given the prevalence of sexual offenses in our region, that the establishment of a specialist court to treat with such offenses would improve the capacity of the court to deliver gender-responsive and customer-focused services to the people we serve.
In the overall thrust to improve the system, the court has been outfitted with modern equipment and technologies.
The court will have the ability to operate with enhanced video and audio links as may be necessary for the conduct of any trial in an atmosphere which promotes fairness rather than one where a witness may feel lost and afraid.
The Chief Justice added that this country was chosen as the location for the model court for several reasons. One such reason is the strides made by the Department of Gender Affairs in addressing sexual abuse cases. Amar Sayers reporting for ABS News.
Thanks, Amar. Now, meanwhile, the Minister of Social Transformation, the Honorable Samantha Marshall, pointed to the alarming number of sexual offense cases which are thrown out. Here again is Amar Sayers.
The Juris Commission study on the progression of sexual offense cases in the justice system of Antigua and Barbuda indicates that 36% of sexual offense cases reviewed were discontinued at the request of the complainant, who expressed that they did not wish for the case to continue.
The Minister of Social Transformation says most of these cases involve girls aged 16 and under.
Survivors have had to endure long wait times before their cases can be brought to trial. In fact, it was not uncommon to hear of cases being called up 5 or 6 years after the initial assault. Many survivors, having grown weary of the process, have opted out before the accused can see a day in court.
Meanwhile, Acting Senior Director of the Caribbean Regional Program of Global Affairs Canada, Monique Bergeron, provided additional data which show the prevalence of sexual violence.
Here in Antigua and Barbuda, 93% of victims in sexual assault cases before the High Court are girls under the age of 16. And 79% of the perpetrators in sexual assault cases in the Antigua High Court are men between the ages of 21 and 60.
Members of the legal fraternity are upbeat that the number of cases thrown out will be significantly reduced. They're also expecting the manner in which cases are handled to be drastically improved. Amar Sayers, ABS News.
Also today, Attorney General the Honorable Steadroy Benjamin said a forensic lab will be established to facilitate the work of the Sexual Offences Court.
We have introduced and will introduce our forensic lab. We have suffered over the years where bits of evidence sent overseas for testing take years to return to Antigua. That will be something of the past.
Minister Benjamin said the government has already allocated $2 million to start the construction of the lab. The Attorney General added that at least 8 officers have been trained in forensic science. One officer is currently pursuing doctoral studies in forensic science and is poised to head the unit upon his return to Antigua and Barbuda. Minister Benjamin noted that a forensic evidence unit will also be established.
We also will have very shortly a forensic evidence unit designed specifically to make certain that evidence is not contaminated and that we are able to present them in a timely manner before you, Justice Morley, in your court.
We switch to another area of interest here this evening as several countries are being offered land to set up embassies and other international facilities in this country. It's part of the government's strategy to generate greater economic activity for the benefit of residents. Prime Minister the Honorable Gaston Brown explains how this will work as we hear from Jamie J. Roche.
People's Republic of China is constructing a US $23 million embassy on 5 acres at Marble Hill.
You can imagine what this facility will do to real estate in this area, just completely uplifting this area. It's already a nice area, it will even be better.
The government has made the land available to the Chinese for the token price of $1.
What we're trying to do is to incentivize various countries and organizations to establish permanency here. It is all part of our developmental strategy to, let's say, export services of other countries that will be domiciled here that you can export to the sub-region.
The strategy is simple. With embassies and other international organizations based here, it will attract people to the country to participate in the services they offer.
This will happen too. When they have these offices here, it will generate opportunities for people to service those offices, and even in terms of maintenance and supplying different services.
It would also help to broaden the horizons of local citizens and residents through cultural exchanges. The area where the Chinese embassy is being constructed will be called Embassy Drive. Adjacent land has already been offered to Venezuela and Cuba for embassies. The Prime Minister reveals more offers will be made when he meets with leaders on the sidelines of the Global Citizen Forum in Switzerland this week. I am Jamie J. Roche reporting for ABS News.
Also here for us, the International Monetary Fund has pointed to several risks to global growth and want policymakers around the world to act now. The IMF has expressed concern the global expansion is weakening and at a rate that is somewhat faster than expected. An update to its World Economic Outlook projects global economic output to grow by 3.5%, a downward revision of 0.2%. It points to rising risk, including a slowing in trade and investment, an escalation of trade tensions, and a worsening of financial conditions. The multilateral lending agency is also raising the red flag that China's growth slowdown could be faster than expected, especially if trade tensions continue. The IMF insists the priority is for countries to resolve cooperatively and quickly their trade disagreements and the resulting policy uncertainty. Despite these risks, Antigua and Barbuda is expecting robust growth of up to 6% in 2019.
Now, several calls to businesses across the country for feedback on the proposed windfall tax has proved futile. Some claim they do not have adequate information, and others say they're unaware. This report by ABS News' Makeda Antonio gives more insight into the new tax.
A windfall tax is a levy imposed by the government when economic conditions allow certain industries to experience above-average profits. Government Chief of Staff Lionel Hurst tells ABS News that this 10% tax, among others, will help to fund the fourth landed University of the West Indies campus in Antigua and Barbuda.
Financial institutions and several other insurance companies that have made a significant amount of money as a result of the importation of cars into Antigua and Barbuda ought to be able to share some of this windfall profit with the government.
Hurst notes that profits enjoyed by those involved in the motor vehicle sector are due to decisions made by the government.
May I make it clear that in 2012 there were about 1,100 cars, vehicles imported into Antigua. By 2018, there are more than 5,700 of those same vehicles imported into Antigua. This is not as a result of any decision made by the insurance companies or by the financial institutions.
The Inland Revenue Department is the taxing arm of the government and will be collecting and providing clarity on further inquiries.
It will arrange for this tax to begin being collected from the moment the taxing authorities get the permission under the law.
Hurst indicates collection will begin following the 2019 budget debate on January 28. Makeda Antonio for ABS News.
Of immediate concern, an additional 5 suspected cases of dengue fever have been reported in Antigua and Barbuda. This brings the number of suspected cases up to 15. Sherilyn Beezer reports on this update from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment.
Of the 5 new suspected cases, there are 3 males and 2 females between the ages of 7 and 58 who reside in English Harbour, Bellevue, Pears, All Saints and All Saints Road. These additional cases bring the total number of suspected cases between April 2018 and January 18, 2019 to 15. The ministry said 3 of the patients were admitted to the pediatric unit at the Mount St. John's Medical Center. Only 2 of the cases have been confirmed. This information was released during a meeting of the newly created Dengue Task Force. The task force comprises of key medical professionals from within the ministry and the Mount St. John's Medical Center. The Barbuda Council, the Antigua and Barbuda Tourism Authority, and the Antigua-Barbuda Red Cross are also part of the team. Director of Pharmaceutical Services, Alfred Athill, confirmed to the team that a number of rapid dengue test kits will be arriving on the island shortly. Meanwhile, the Central Board of Health has increased the number of inspections being carried out by the Vector Control Unit throughout the various communities. They have also increased their fogging operations as well as its education campaign to prevent mosquito breeding. Although Antigua and Barbuda is not experiencing an outbreak, the ministry will continue to do all that is within its power to mitigate the threat of the Aedes aegypti mosquito. Sherilyn Beezer reporting for ABS News.
You should be reminded of the symptoms of dengue fever, sudden high fever, severe headaches, pain behind the eyes, severe joint and muscle pain, fatigue, nausea, vomiting and skin rash, which appears 2 to 5 days after the onset of the fever.
Now, there is double anguish for a family this evening. 2 of their members were injured in a traffic crash early yesterday morning. It's the same family whose teenage relative, Trey Griffith, remains missing.
Please, please, please come back home.
That was the desperate appeal from the mother of Trey Griffith at the end of December 2018. The 19-year-old remains missing. The worried family has now been plunged into even more distress. His mother, Shondell Jingwe, and stepfather, Shelton Jingwe, went in search of him in the Villa Fort Hood area. They had received information he was spotted on several occasions. The search proved futile, But as they were returning from the area around 3 a.m., they were involved in a traffic collision. Police say the grey Hyundai Atos, registered A2309, driven by Shondell Dringaway, was traveling from west to east on Alfred Peters Street. The police say the vehicle entered Fort Road Main Road when it was not safe and collided with a white Subaru Legacy registered A48143. That vehicle had only the driver, who was traveling from south to north on Fort Road. The impact of the collision pushed the Atos off the road and into a nearby wall. All three were taken to the hospital via the emergency medical services. ABS News has learned that Shelton Dringaway remains in the intensive care unit in a critical condition, while Shondell Dringaway was treated at hospital and discharged. Meanwhile, the condition of the driver of the Subaru Legacy is unknown at this time. Shondell told ABS News her husband's condition has improved.
He catch himself, but he don't remember of the accident. He don't remember anything. He don't know in the hospital, he pulling up the things out for him and he peeing up his skin. Yeah, he wearing this thing for peeing a bag and so on, Pampers he have on. But he don't remember nothing. I talked to him with his mother there, and I tell him he was in an accident yesterday, and he asked me, "You don't know about the accident. You don't know this, you don't know nothing."
This family is hoping one of their members recovers fully and another is found and reunited with them. Well, approximately 80,000 pounds of giant African snails have been destroyed under the Giant African Snail Bounty Initiative. The snail made its first appearance in the country back in 2004 and has since spread to most communities across this country. The giant African snail is an invasive species known to be highly adaptive and resilient. Snails are able to lay roughly 100 eggs a month and have a life expectancy of up to 8 years. The Plant Protection Agency launched the Giant African Snail Bounty Initiative in September of 2018 and within their first month eradicated 19,742 pounds of the snail. Dr. Go Francis, head of the Plant Protection Agency, indicated that Fitch's Creek and Fries Hill area were some of the most snail-infested communities. The initiative concluded on December 31. No discussions have taken place in regards to the funding of another initiative.
Now, Antigua has nominations in 6 categories in the tourism-related USA Today 10 Best Reader's Choice Awards. Antigua is nominated as the Best Caribbean Island for Romance. Meanwhile, UNESCO World Heritage Site Nelson's Dockyard is nominated as the Best Caribbean Attraction. Deep Bay and Dickinson Bay are up for the Best Caribbean Beach Award. Luxury Resort Curtain Bluff is nominated as the Best Caribbean Resort. Sherrock's is in the running for Best Restaurant in the Caribbean, and Catherine's Cafe is up for the Best Caribbean Beach Bar. You can vote online at USA Today and vote once per day for Antigua's nominees until February 11th at noon. The winners will be announced February 22nd. You may remember last November, Antigua's Susie's Hot Sauce won the USA Today 10 Best Reader's Choice Award for the best gift for foodies.
Well, we are on the 500-mile mark. We are talking about the Team Antigua Island girls who have less than 430 miles to go before they're home. As they continue on this historic journey in an effort to raise funds for Cottage of Hope, you're encouraged to donate. The aim is to build a new housing facility for the organization, which provides a home for girls who are abused, neglected, or orphaned. Visit the Island Girls website at www.antiguabarbudaislandgirls.com or their Facebook page, Team Antigua Island Girls, for information on how to donate. The ladies are expected to row into the Nelson's Dockyard early next week. Teams continue to arrive in English Harbor as they complete the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge, Atlantic Discover, and Transatlantic Traffords. The next 2 teams scheduled to arrive. They should complete the race tomorrow.
That's right. Both of them should be in here tomorrow. But we're getting more and more excited because our girls, they are closer and closer to home. Sometime next week, It should be here.
Certainly.
Yes, indeed.
Can't wait, right?
Can't wait at all. We've been saying the end of the month for the longest time now, and so it feels good to finally say in a couple of days, sometime next week.
Awesome stuff. All right, we have a lot more to get to on this Monday night.